Hi everyone, I'm Chrissy and welcome to my show, which is the only program out there dedicated to mental health and well-being. And today we're discussing different types of loss and giving you some tips and advice on how to deal with these difficult times. My first guest is someone that you all know and love. It's our resident family coach, Sharon Lawton, who's always smiling from ear to ear and is a joy to have on our team. However, she went through a massive loss some years ago when her baby boy Samuel died. She'll be telling us her story and how she got through her loss to be the happy person she is today and who is helping other families. We then move on to psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, talking about the best way to help a family member or friend through loss. Then it's news correspondent Helena Chard in this week's A Helping of Happy, which brings positive news to your screens. And Coach Chris Browne is back to talk us through dealing with the loss of a job, whether through dismissal or redundancy. We'll also show you the latest school we visited to do the Mental Health Dance Challenge, which was Brooklands Infant and Nursery School. And we also have Drs Orders with Dr Rob Hicks to give you some advice on how to deal with an apparent health loss. And finally, nutritionist Laura Southern will be answering your nutritional questions. So let's head over to our first guest, Sharon Lawton. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Hi, Chrissy.
So it's lovely to have you on today. I mean, it is under different circumstances. Normally you're here giving advice and things, but today you're going to share your story about loss, because I didn't know this about you. And as I said earlier, you know, Sharon is always smiling and happy and helping families with all her advice and her tips. But she did go through a loss. She lost her baby boy, Samuel, 21 years ago.
21 years ago, yeah.
So, but you pulled yourself through with some help, which is what we're always talking about on this program, about the importance of getting help. So can you tell us about what happened exactly?
Sure, okay. So I got married in 1995 and shortly afterwards fell pregnant quite quickly, but lost that first one through miscarriage, which isn't you know, unusual, but you know, it was unsettling at the time. And then about a year later I fell pregnant again, and I have to say initially it was quite hard to sort of feel excited because of the what happened before. So when I got to the sort of the 3-month check and everything was all okay, I started to relax and, you know, sort of quite enjoy being pregnant. And I was young, you know, I was 29 and I was fit and healthy, and the only thing I had to complain about really, as I think I said to you, was, you know, swollen ankles, and you know what I'm like with shoes. I couldn't get my shoes on, so, you know, that's all I had to complain about. So I was very sort of fit and healthy. And I was working in London at the time, very driven career woman, and had all intentions of going back full time after work. So certainly after I had the baby, and certainly you know, after my experience, that was certainly one thing that did change. So I continued with my pregnancy. Everything seemed to be okay until one of the checks that I went to with my midwife, who said that I was showing signs of a condition called preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is a condition that affects women in pregnancy where the placenta isn't working properly, it's not formed properly, and it can affect the mum and it can affect the unborn baby, and there isn't a cure until the baby is born, if you like. So it's something that they like to monitor. So I was being monitored closely and, you know, sort of continued, and then I went on maternity leave, and it was a gorgeous, I can remember it was a gorgeous hot summer, and during that time, you know, I was having lovely lunches and went to my local NCT group and met, you know, did all the things that you do, you know, when you're looking forward to your first baby, buying clothes and getting the nursery sorted out. So it was a, you know, it was a really lovely, exciting time, first baby. And then sort of more towards the sort of like the end of my pregnancy, my midwife noticed that the condition was starting to worsen, and there were other signs and symptoms around preeclampsia that were sort of showing much more intently, and so then referred me to have some more regular hospital checkups. And that sort of progressed for a while until one day I went in for a, you know, routine check, and they were very concerned about how the preeclampsia had escalated. And then I had to be referred in. So I went into hospital and was monitored for a while in hospital, and then they discharged me and sent me home. only to be sent back 2 days later because the midwife was very unhappy with the blood pressure was sky high and, you know, all of the other indicators. So they were really quite concerned. And that was, by that stage, I was full term. I was past my sort of due date. Yeah. So when it was referred back in, and the decision was made then for an assisted, sort of like to bring on the labour with induction, they call it. So I was induced labour. And then went into, well, started to go into the early stages of labour. So that sort of progressed, and I was being sort of monitored and things. The midwife that was looking after us, what she noticed was sort of towards the sort of middle part of the labour, that every time I had a contraction, the baby, well, Samuel, his name was, heart rate dropped, which I didn't know at the time, but that was a sign that the baby is in distress. So they called in the senior registrar. He came in and checked and everything, and it was decided, you know, let's continue to see how things go. We'll continue monitoring, but things just got, well, I mean, that I didn't realise actually how things were sort of slowly getting worse at the time. Both my mum and Mark, my husband, were in the delivery suite with me, and you know, so when we talk about things and when I think back retrospectively, clearly that's when things were starting to escalate, because they were sort of looking around worriedly. There were lots of people sort of coming in and out of the delivery suite, lots of sort of buzzing around and stuff. But I was totally unaware of, you know, what was going on. But you don't know what you don't know, do you? And then the registrar was called back in because they were very concerned about how the heart rate was dropping, and a decision was made. Initially, first of all, should we do an emergency cesarean? But then it was decided that I would have an assisted delivery through something that's called Von-Too's, which is a bit like forceps type of thing. So it's an assisted delivery. And that continued, and then as he was born, what happened was he breathed in something that's called meconium. Now, meconium, all these words, the meconium is something that a baby passes, like a first bowel movement, when they are very distressed. And he asphyxiated on that. And that's when everything went totally crazy, and the crash team came in, and they were working on him, but unfortunately they couldn't revive him. So he sort of died at birth, at delivery. What was it that happened at that stage? Obviously, were you told immediately what had happened? I didn't. I had no idea what was. I knew something was terribly wrong. And you just, everything was sort of panic stations in the delivery suite. I didn't know anything was wrong at that stage because they were obviously working on him and trying to revive him. And I kept sort of, kept straining and listening for that sort of first cry, that didn't come. And then, sort of everything just sort of slowed down. And then they came over and sort of said that they weren't able to revive him, and, and that he wouldn't be coming home with us as a newborn baby. Do you remember what went through your mind at that point? It was a total shock, I think. I mean, I felt at that stage sort of a disbelief, couldn't quite figure out what was going on. I think Mark and my mum were more distressed about it than I was. I think I was sort of in this sort of surreal sort of, what are you talking about type of thing. But slowly sort of the realisation sort of dawned, and it was devastating. I mean, it was the most surreal moment to sort of go in with, all of these sort of happy feelings and this, this, you got your nursery your bag, ready at home, and nursery was ready at home, and my bag was packed with all the little outfits and stuff. And it's sort of, I have to say I probably felt a failure as a woman at that point. Sort of felt, well, how come everybody else can have a delivery and a safe baby and I can't? First of all, I'm miscarrying now. I've lost one at full term. So now you did actually get to hold Samuel and say your goodbyes and even dress him and everything, didn't you? So how important was that? I mean, at the time, I thought it was a bit odd. But retrospectively, it was the best thing that could happen, and we were really lucky. And you know, we had by chance, my community midwife, who was looking after me at home, was on duty that night, and she found out what had gone on and came in. And she was like this sort of ray of light in this sort of darkness that sort of came in and just took over everything. And she said, right, you know, you're still his parents, you know, you're still, you know, mum and dad, and he's your little boy, and you need to hold him and you need to bath him. And we did all of those things and had photographs taken. And yeah, it was an important part of the grieving process, actually. And I still have the photographs, and we still have the blanket and stuff. And you know, it's a really important part of that journey of acceptance and saying goodbye. So I was really glad that she did that, and she was amazing.
Wonderful. Sharon, now your husband was quite worried about you, wasn't he, at one point, because obviously he was afraid for your safety as well, not to lose you as well on top of everything.
Absolutely, because the story didn't stop there. The next day I was discharged, everything was okay, and I went home to be looked after in the community by my GP. And the next day my GP came in and checked me over, and you know, said, oh, you know, I'm really sorry to hear what happened. Checked my blood pressure, and it was dangerously high. And he just turned around to my husband and said, you've got to get her into hospital right now. She's in danger of having a heart attack or a stroke. You know, it's life-threatening. So I was taken straight back in and given medication. Now, I was obviously so ill, I had no idea what was going on. I can't imagine what it must have been like for him, obviously just losing his son, then facing the possibility of losing me as well. So, you know, it was you know, really tricky time for him. And we grieved very differently as well. And I think, you know, because he had that extra thing to sort of contend with, as well as, and one of the things he did say to me afterwards was, when we were talking about stuff sort of, you know, as the months went on, was when he was out and about, people would ask him how I was, but nobody asked how he was. So it was really interesting. Well, how's your wife? How awful, you know, or how's Sharon doing? But, you know, it was really interesting.
Would that have helped him, do you think? Did he say that would have made a difference?
I think so, because it was almost like he wasn't able then to sort of, didn't feel able to talk to anybody about how he was feeling, you know, and then the only person he felt he could talk to was me, and then I was deep in my grief as well. You know, you can see how people lose their way at a time when you would expect you to come together, but you're both lost in your own grief at the time.
Now, Sharon, we are unfortunately running out of time, but can you tell me, you did get some help from a charity, didn't you? How important was that?
Really important. So I did some counselling, but I also reached out to some charities. So the Stillbirth and Neonatal Death Society, they were amazing. They gave me lots of help and support, and I ended up fundraising for them. And also the charity Action on Preeclampsia, which is a charity that is specifically around the condition that I had.
How much did that help you in your recovery as well?
Oh, really, really did, because it helped me to talk to people who, you know, who had experienced similar things. And talking about my story really helped me to come to terms with what was going on. So
is this one of the reasons why you went into what you do now, and coaching and helping families?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, a lot of people would say to me, oh, you're so amazing, I don't think I could cope with that. But when you're faced with something where you're so powerless to do anything about it, you have two choices. You either deal with it the best that you can, or you go under. And believe me, there were times when I felt like I would, but it was important for me to make sure that what happened to me and what happened to Samuel wasn't in vain. So being able to give back was for me a way of sort of making sure that what happened was a positive came out of something so terrible.
So you didn't go back to your job in the city?
No, not at all. No. And you know, I'm driven by other things now. Then it was about success and money and position, and now it's more about sort of giving back and making a difference. You know, that's sort of where my drive is now.
Success after a big loss, but you turned it around. And
absolutely.
Everything. And you have a lovely family as well. You've got two boys.
Two boys, 16 and 19. Very proud of them. We're a very close family. They know about Samuel as well. We talk about him openly, and I think that's important too.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your story, my love. I'm sure that's inspired our viewers.
Hope so. I hope so.
And we'll have you on very soon again to give more of your tips that will help the families out there.
I look forward to that, Chris.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right, everybody, so after the break, we're going to be speaking to our psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, about the best way to help a family member or friend through loss. And also news correspondent Helena Chard is back with this week's A Helping of Happy, bringing you positive news.
I think it's very important because it's a very interactive way for young people to take part and know the stigma around mental health and actually make a change.
Yeah.
As we were advertising our Student Mental Health Dance Challenge, we had lots of people come forward. We had lots of boys here where we know that lots of boys aren't actually able to talk about mental health.
Welcome back to today's program, everybody, where we are discussing different types of loss and how to deal with them. And now we have on Dr. Audrey Tang in this week's Psychology Matters segment. Hello, Audrey.
Hello, thanks for having me, Chrissy.
It's lovely to have you back. So you know all about Sharon's story now?
I do.
Yeah.
And it's such an uplifting story in the end, and that's very positive. But to think that somebody has gone through so much and has found that way to come out the other end, it's just something where I just think, you know, that's great. That's inspirational for me.
So if we know someone maybe that's been through something that Sharon had in the past and like we want to help, what's the best way, do you think? Because sometimes you just never know what to say in these kind of situations.
Absolutely. One of the things that I would like to pull up and mention is that Sharon talks about her husband and about how in her situation he was then worrying not only about having to manage the grief of losing a baby, but also that he might even lose his wife. Yeah. And that in itself is something that we sometimes forget. As we're going through the process of loss, we might sometimes become a bit insular with it. Yeah. And we may not think, oh my goodness, actually my husband, my spouse might be also thinking, not only am I dealing with that, but I'm really worried about you as well. Or you might also be really worried about other siblings, other children, and other people who are affected by it. So the first thing to remember is loss is not necessarily just you isolated on your own. And that's not just for you to remember, but for friends, family, everyone to think about that. Also, men and women, and actually everyone in general, we all deal with it in different ways. Men and women, it's a little bit more pronounced sometimes, in that sometimes men prefer to do things to take their minds off what they're going through. And no one should ever judge that in a way of, oh, well, they're just in the garage, so they don't care. That's just maybe the way he's managing it. And that's the same with anybody. Just because someone's way of dealing with grief is not how we would choose to deal with it, doesn't mean they're not dealing with it. Yeah. And one thing that is probably quite helpful is if we don't judge. It's very easy to sort of think, oh, well, someone's not being very emotional, so maybe they don't care or they're not feeling it. And that can be quite awful because we may respond to them in a way that isn't helpful. But similarly, because sadness often makes us as humans quite uncomfortable, actually. We don't like being around it very much. Just because someone is sad, sometimes the only thing we can do is sit there and just hold their hand. Which kind of leads me on to the things that might be helpful. It's partly to remember that platitudes are not the most helpful things. And a lot of the time, oh, so-and-so had a good life, or, oh, they're in a better place. Or I know they're meant well, and no one means to say anything to bring on more hurt. But those sorts of things, one example in particular, is we seem to somehow feel more sadness for somebody younger who's lost a parent. But when someone's been your parent for sort of 40, 50, 60 years even, then surely that connection is something that we need to remember as well. So just because something seems sadder, it doesn't mean someone else isn't feeling it if their experience is different. So rather than give a platitude, even just say, I don't know what to say, or I'm sad for your loss, or my thoughts are with you, whatever it might be. If you are going to offer practical help, that can be sometimes very welcomed. So it might be, look, I'll cook dinner tonight and you and your husband can just sit and...
Rather than saying, what can I do for you?
Exactly. Don't make people choose at a time of grief, because their thoughts are absolutely all over the place, and choosing is another decision they have to make. And I know a lot of the time we want to help people and empower them and allow them to make those decisions, but sometimes those decisions mean nothing compared to what they're actually struggling with. So practical help, sometimes saying to somebody, look, I'll take you out, even just to maybe take their mind off things. But then if they change their mind and just want to sit at home, sit at home with them. That can be just as powerful. And things which you might find strange or silly, helping someone get their nails done, or just feeling a little bit better in themselves, that can make a huge difference too. But the main thing is to remember that not everyone deals with things in the same way, so don't judge anybody. And when we help, practical help is one of the most important things that we can offer.
Agree. Audrey, thank you so much, my love.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next week. Yes, thank you. Well, everybody, so now it's time to head over to news correspondent Helena Chard in this week's A Helping of Happy. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy.
So I don't know, the show is all about loss, so what kind of positive news have you found?
I always think that in some stories you still can get positivity out of it. So
that's why I love having you on the programme.
Thank you, and I love being here. So research shows that music can be a great healer. It can bring people together. And I love Gareth Malone, who is the broadcaster and choir master. I don't know if you know him, but he's really very talented. So he has proved in his programs about how people, bringing people together and how fantastic it can be. And a recent one which I've just seen is to do with Grenfell Tower, and the school next to Grenfell Tower, who's Kensington Aldred Academy, known as KAA, asked him to come in to help create a concert to mark the reopening of their building, because they had to relocate at that terrible time, and lots of children were in trauma. Actually, the school was very good at bringing people in to help them, so the whole situation has been good. So obviously they were faced with disaster, but they quickly have created this amazing, it's quite hard to see, it's really good to watch, that's what I would say, and they're so talented, these children, it's incredible. He spent 7 months working with them, and the musical tribute was absolutely stunning. I think what it highlighted as well is that they were so sad they lost 5 students, and it actually has propelled them, it's brought them closer, and they want to really achieve and do well, because they realise obviously that the fellow students they lost can't do it. It absolutely is, and it's a really stunning programme. Moving on to another story about Lewis Hardy, which I really quite like this story. Reading bedtime stories helped him survive prison. He was naughty in prison. He struggled in prison, felt isolated, as you'd imagine, missed his young family, felt very cold, because obviously you don't have the contact and everything. And just a thing which people take for granted, which is reading stories, completely changed everything for him. Had a lot of time to think, figured out that when he came out he was going to give all his time to his children, his family, and he did exactly that. But it's called Storybook Dads, and it's a known thing in prison, where if you've got younger children, you have a chance to spend time in a recording studio, just reading stories, and then these get sent to the families, the young children. And what the lovely thing is, it really helped the family, because when they missed him, they used to put it on and listen to his stories. It used to help soothe them when they were upset, and when they closed their eyes, they could hear him. So it was a really good thing. And also for him, it was a big part of his childhood, because his mum used to read to him, and he'd lost all of that. And then he realised his passion was, rekindled. And I mean, it took him to be in prison to be reminded of that. So again, it's a positive that came out of it, which is lovely, which is really nice. Moving on to, I think I'm going to jump, and I'm going to go to Virginia McLaren, 110 she is. And she's the lady that danced in the White House with the Obamas. And she mentors lots of children. I'm not quite sure whether she's mentoring children now because she's 110, but I know at 106, 107 she was a real poster girl, really, because you know, obviously keeping active and working with children has kept her alive and really, really positive, which is fantastic. And that's what led me to think about Japan, because they've got a super aging population, I think everywhere, but especially Japan. And people have had to adapt, and there is a new thing out called Second Lives, and it's almost like new careers to help the elderly stay active and keep their brain, you know, they want to be able to give and feel purpose, because why should you retire at a certain age if you're going to live till, let's say, 110? Yeah, it's like amazing, isn't it?
It's a long time to sit around doing nothing.
Isn't it? So it's a new thing, it's flexible job sharing, and it's paid work, and in kindergartens, things like that, so where lots of people will do a few hours. But there is one particular guy, I can't quite remember his name, Mr. Amori. Now, he used to work making children's toys and absolutely loved it, and then had to retire. But now working in the kindergarten, he's completely brought to life. He absolutely loves it, he feels connected. And there's lots of elderly in Japan who are anxious about giving up their jobs, and they want to contribute, as I said. And why shouldn't they? I mean, it benefits your health, it benefits everyone's health.
Mentally, physically, all sorts of things.
Absolutely. So I think that's another life story.
Lovely, thank you, Helena.
Got lots more next time.
Madonna, we'll run out of time. So sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again on next week's show.
Absolutely.
Lovely. All right, everybody, so after the break, we'll show you the latest school we visited to do the Mental Health Dance Challenge, which was Brooklands Infant and Nursery School. And we also have Drs Orders with Dr Rob Hicks to give you some advice on how to deal with an apparent health loss. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show, and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv. Welcome back, everybody, to the Chrissy B Show. So here's the latest school we visited to do the Mental Health Dance Challenge, which was Brooklands Infant and Nursery School. Does anyone know what MHD stands for? Go on. Yes, mental health. Well, MHD, mental health dance. And then the C is the challenge. Yeah? So the reason that we've done this dance, we've put this dance together, is to tell you as well that even when you feel very sad, even when you feel afraid, even when you don't understand something, some feelings, those cold and prickly feelings that you're having, that actually the best thing for you to do is to speak to someone. So Carol, why do you think it's so important to discuss mental health and well-being with children?
I think it's really important. In our school we do take it seriously. Our children are really young, but obviously we want to talk to them about feelings and to recognise the different feelings that they have.
We do team lunches once every week, so 6 children are chosen to eat lunch with their teachers in their classroom. And that's provided a really nice opportunity for them to talk about their well-being, if there's anything that's worrying them. It's been a really sort of effective platform for them.
So what did you think about the challenge when Mrs Porter came and introduced it to you and told you about the possibility of us bringing it to school?
I thought, what an exciting thing to happen, to get the children active and have that emotional literacy to be able to use their bodies to express it. I thought that was an amazing opportunity.
Fantastic. And I hear you have a whole wellbeing team here, so obviously mental health is really important. Do you think, or some people might say that the age of the children that you have here at school are too young to talk about feelings and mental health? What would you say to that?
I would say our young children are all about feelings, and they express them so freely, and sometimes you can see that the children, some children may not be able to express those feelings, and that's a worry. So anything we can do to help them explore that and explore what's going on for them. It's very important.
Let's go this way, go! Stomp, stomp, stomp. Stomp, 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 step back and point and wave. Woo! Forward. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Stomp, 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 step back and point and wave.
Today we were talking more about keeping their minds fit and healthy. Tell me how you build that into the curriculum here at school.
So lots of moving with early years, keeping them active, moving around, making sure they're happy, and then as we go up to school, keeping them moving but enjoying the PE and outdoor learning.
Asa, what did you like about the dance?
The time that when it was the end and we done the actual thing.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
What was your favourite move?
The one where you put your knees up and go like that.
Oh, okay. All right. And what's your name, Sue?
Evie.
Evie. If you had a problem, maybe you were feeling sad about something, who would you speak to?
I'd speak to an adult or parent.
Why is it important to talk to someone?
Because they can help you feel better and get the bad feelings to go away.
Step and crush, step and crush, step and crush. Arms together, together, together. Who's gonna do that freestyle? Off we go!
Leah, what did you like about today and what did you learn?
I learned about when you're sad you could ask someone, an adult, because they're your mum and dad and they look after you if there's any problems.
Tell me, Bo, what did you like about today and what did you learn?
I learned a whole dance today and I think I was actually getting better and better at it. Because it was a bit hard and I kept on trying it.
So everyone, it's with great pleasure that I present the Certificate of Completion to Brooklands Infant and Nursery School for successfully completing the MHD Challenge. There you go. So thank you very much to everybody at Brooklands there and congratulations for successfully completing the MHD Challenge. So now it's time to head over to Doctor's Orders with Dr Rob Hicks to give you some advice on how to deal with an apparent health loss.
Hello and welcome to Doctor's Orders here at the Chrissy B Show. I'm Dr Rob Hicks. Today I'd like to talk with you about what can happen if your doctor tells you that you've got a medical problem, you've got a health condition, and how although when you hear that you may feel it's quite a negative experience, how it is actually possible to turn that into a far more positive experience because of course there will be treatment available, there will be help and there will be support available to you. Emotionally, it can come as a real shock and surprise to be told that you have a medical condition. It might mean that you think you're not the complete healthy person that you were beforehand. You may be frightened about what this condition might mean or might do to you. From a family point of view, you might be worried that your family may also get the condition, or that you may not be able to look after them as well as you want to, or that you may not be able to run your home like you have been doing. Your lifestyle may be affected. You may be worried about how this might happen because you may need to change your diet. You may need to lose some weight. You may need to take medication every day for the rest of your life. Your social life might be affected. You may be worried that you're somebody who actually likes to go to the pub with your mates a couple of times a week. But you may have been told that this new condition means that you have to cut down on your drinking or maybe stop drinking altogether. Then of course there's the impact that you're worried about with regards to work. Does having this new diagnosis mean that you're not going to be able to work or you might have to change your job? What's the impact going to be as far as your colleagues are concerned when you tell them you have a condition and you need to take some extra time off to attend hospital appointments, for example? And something that may also worry and worries lots of people when they're given a diagnosis is, how is this going to affect them financially? If you're somebody who's got a loan or a mortgage or life assurance, for example, does this mean that actually the amounts you're going to have to pay back will increase? And if in the future you need to borrow some money, does having this condition make that hard for you or harder? But this is where I feel it's important to turn things around and think more positively and more optimistically. The bottom line is, it's better to know that you have a condition than not to know, because then you can get the appropriate treatment, you can make the necessary lifestyle changes so that that condition can be treated and managed properly. That way, you become in control of the condition rather than the condition controlling you. With things like high blood pressure and diabetes, for example, these conditions can be damaging the body very silently without you realizing it. So knowing you have the condition, it means you can try and stop this damage from happening and reduce the risk of the problems that may come with conditions like this. Then of course think about the fact that this may be the trigger, this may give you the motivation to actually do those things that you've always wanted to do, you've always said you were going to do, but you never got round to doing. So it might be to lose weight, it might be to get fit, it might be to give up smoking, it might be to spend more time with your family and friends, it might be to do more hobbies or to travel more. So this may be actually a very positive reason for moving things forward. And it's important to build your knowledge around your own personal health, but particularly around this condition you've been diagnosed with. And that can be a positive thing as well, because if you've got the information and you've got the knowledge and you develop the understanding, then you're in a better position to actually treat the medical condition to keep it under control. And I would urge you, never be frightened to ask questions and never be frightened to tell people how you're feeling, because actually you may be feeling very stressed about it, you may feel anxious about it. And it's very important to tell people this so that you can get the help and support you need. And there is so much help and support out there, from your family, from your friends, from healthcare professionals like your doctor and your nurse and your specialist, for example, but also from charities and support groups. And you may decide to join an online forum with other people who have a similar condition to you or the same condition to you. So you can learn from them, you can be supported by them, but also you can share your knowledge and you can give them support. So there's another positive thing that can come out of this. So I would advise you and encourage you to turn any negative thinking around and think more positively and optimistically about this diagnosis and what you can do to maintain your health and well-being, both your physical and mental health and well-being. And that's Doctor's Orders.
Well everyone, now it's time for a break, but do join us for more shortly. Who knows what MHD stands for? Oh, brilliant, yes, Mental Health Dance Challenge. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now we have on Coach Chris Browne to talk us through dealing with the loss of a job, whether through dismissal or redundancy.
Hi, today I want to speak to you about handling job loss. Now, handling job loss is not as easy for some as it might be for others. You just might have gone through it at this very moment, and you might be in turmoil. You might be thinking, well, I lost my job because of this, or I lost my job because of that. But have a look at these points I'm going to show you, which will help you to get through this period and this time. Point 1, acknowledging your emotional state. Why do I say that? You have to acknowledge how you actually feel at this time, because you've come through a period where you've been going to this job from 9 to 5, and that's quite a chunk of your life. And when that goes, all of a sudden, we're a bit lost. It feels as if you're mourning someone, as if you lost someone, you lost something. And yes, why? Because you lost a part of you. But that's not the end. This is actually the beginning. There are many individuals who have become very successful entrepreneurs, doing great things, running their business, starting a new company, directs the company, people who actually lost their jobs. Because life has a way of, if you don't make a decision, it makes a decision for you. So let's turn this inside out. This loss of job could be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. It's about how you handle it. So here we go. First of all, we might have felt pretty sad. Then we might feel very nonchalant about it. But when we realize what we can do and the capability within our hands, you're going to start to feel really good about this. So if you just lost your job, here's what I want you to do. Have a look at this one. Get your finances in order. That is one of the first things that you should be doing. What do I mean by that? The worst thing that could happen is you've lost your job and all these creditors, these people are calling you up. That's going to put a lot of pressure on you. You're going to feel worse than what really happened. So you're going to turn this around. You're going to get pen and paper. You're going to look at all of your outgoings, what's meant to be going out, what you're supposed to be paying off, what you can't pay off right now, what you can do, and you phone up your creditors instead. You chase them. Don't wait for them to chase you. And you explain to them, this is your situation. I need this amount of period of time to get back on top. You will feel so much better about it. It clears your mind and it gives you that space to work things out. And talking about work things out, my next step is this. Set job goals. Set job goals. So you need to, again, get a pen and pad, work out the time span you've got between this. Now, let me make it simpler instead. Let's just imagine that we are in now January. Now, January, let's say you've done 2 weeks. That is half a month. Another 2 weeks on top of that, that is a whole month. Another 2 weeks on top of that, that works out to be a month and a half. Another 2 weeks on top of that. Well, there we go. We got 2 months of the year gone already. So if we broke that down and return back to the beginning and say, you work out how many interviews you're supposed to go to within a week, right? So it might be 2, it might be 3 when you start out, and then let's say the other week, the same again. And if you do this repetitiously, you are going to start hitting those targets and those goals. You're being proactive. You set plans into getting yourself back into work. That might be sending out CVs. Let me say this as well. Don't send out blanket CVs. Get to know each company. Do the research. You've got the time now. You can do it. So plan your goals in how you're going to job search, what you're going to do, and in what time you're going to make this work. Here's my next step. Investing in you. So now you've planned these goals, you need to invest in you. When I say invest in you, it could be doing a course. It could be, let's say, brushing up on your skills, and even physically as well, to get up each morning and just do a power walk and go somewhere, come back. It keeps the mind fresh. It keeps you focused on what you're meant to do. So you need to look after yourself, study, let's say, discover what your real talents are, your skills, what you could be better in the work that you actually do already. You need to invest in you, okay? So let's go on to step 5 here. So now you've been working on you, you need to know your worth. And when I say your worth, we are talking about in the job market. What is your worth now? You've got all these skills, you've invested in you. What is your worth now? And not only that, look at your own self-esteem, because you're going to feel much better about yourself, and you know that you can go out there and sell you. So you need to be telling others. So our next step, let others know. So you've got to get out there and tell others about who you are, your worth, what you're about, what you've got to sell, what you've got to give, to their company as well. Now, when I say who you are, I'm not just talking about by name. I'm talking about what you've got inside of you that you can actually trade for that time. Get out there and tell others. Get out there. Now, how are you going to get out there? Networking, just as it says on the slide. Networking. Going to events, find out where they are. Sometimes to actually clench that job that you want, it's not always straightforward as just your CV and all that. It's good to get to know people, tell people what you're looking for. That could be friends, family, outside that, going to networking events and make things happen. Okay, next slide. Now, this is a fun, and you've got to remember this. This will keep your mind balanced. This situation is temporary. This situation is not as bad as you might think it is. So if you keep this in mind and remember this period that you're going through is temporary. So let's stay focused and get back into work, value yourself, get that job that you need. It's a temporary situation. Look above it, vision ahead, know where you want to be. So those are my points for handling job loss today. Coach Chris Browne on the Chrissy B Show. Have a good one.
Thank you very much to Chris Browne. So now it's time to get your nutritional questions answered with Laura Southern. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you back. So we have some questions from our viewers.
Great.
Are you ready?
I am, always.
Okay. So the first one is, I'm a female in my 40s and have successfully lost weight, calorie counting in the past, and kept it off for a long time. However, I've put on about a stone over the course of 2 years and just can't seem to motivate myself to stick to a calorie-controlled diet. Please help! Exclamation mark as well.
It's always the exclamation mark. It's like,
desperate.
So interestingly, I have been probably helping people lose weight for kind of 10 years, and I have never once ever talked about calories or put any of my weight loss clients on a calorie-controlled diet because all the evidence shows it just doesn't work. And, you know, I've studied nutrition for a long time and probably couldn't tell you the calorie content of anything because when you're kind of on a calorie controlled diet, you're eating things that are low in calorie, but they might not be nutritious, you know, a chocolate bar, a low calorie chocolate bar or a low calorie this or that that's processed and manufactured. It's not providing you with any kind of health giving properties. So when it comes to weight loss, there are several things that can be done and things that can be kind of put into your life quite easily. So the current thinking around weight loss and what works for a lot of my clients actually is all about time restricted feeding, which sounds a bit weird, but it basically means if you think about your day as like a 12-hour day, it's eating in an 8 to 10 hour window. So you might start your first meal at like 11 o'clock, so you wouldn't have breakfast. It might be a brunch or even a bit later at 12, and you would stop eating at kind of 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and then have nothing else to eat. And that has shown really good results with, with weight loss actually. And it's something that you can fit in your day quite easily. The other thing is just kind of going back to the old-fashioned 3 meals a day, no snacks. It's the snacks that often aren't necessary at all, and we do get a bit hungry in the day, and that's normal. And I used to spend my life saying to my weight loss patients, oh, I don't want you to feel hungry, you know, and now I say to them, a little bit of hunger isn't bad. It's a sign that actually, you know, you're kind of going where you want to go, and if you look at your watch, you're going to have your next meal in 2 hours. Do something else, take your mind off the hunger, and actually that's kind of a good thing if you're wanting to lose weight. So those are kind of the things that...
It's true, because when my tummy rumbles, it's like, I have to eat now. Or
Exactly. And that's, and we have food all around us, and it's so easy to just grab something, and you don't like that feeling. It's quite a nervous feeling, and you think, oh my goodness, I'm going to starve.
Something wrong.
And it's probably like biological, and like we're primed to kind of feel scared about it. But actually, if you kind of really logically think about it, it's not that long to your next meal. You're never going to actually starve living, you know, where we live in the West. So harsh, but true.
Lovely. All right, let's go to our next question then. This viewer is asking, what can I eat that can help my hair to grow?
Okay, so hair growth, there are lots of factors that can help support hair growth. The first thing is to check if there's anything wrong with your body. So if there's any thyroid deficiencies, so if you've got an underactive thyroid, that will affect your hair growth and your hair strength. iron also is one that if you haven't got enough iron, and that's really common, especially in women, to not have enough iron or to be deficient in iron, that will stop your hair growing in the same kind of way that you maybe used to have or would like. So those are the things to kind of get checked out, and you can, you know, just go to your GP and ask for an iron, you know, to check your iron levels and to check your thyroid, because they're very correctable if there is that deficiency. If those are good, which hopefully they are, then it's just thinking about what actually we need in our diet to make healthy hair. So the main things are protein, because actually hair is a protein structure, and it's got collagen in it, which is also a protein structure. So protein is coming from obviously meat, which is a good source, but eggs are also a great source, and then vegetable proteins from things like soya and nuts and seeds, making sure that there's, you know, quite not a lot for meat, but you know, quite a good amount of protein in your diet every day is going to be very supportive. And vitamin C rich foods, so things like, we often think about them just for kind of immunity, but actually vitamin C makes collagen, and collagen is essential for hair. So, you know, the bright fruits, the bright vegetables, eating lots of different variety of kind of salad vegetables. So with vitamin C, as they cook, it kind of degrades the vitamin C levels. So lots and lots of salads, fresh fruit in your day. And actually a collagen supplement, there are some really good ones out in the market, can be quite a useful thing. And checking obviously that your iron levels and zinc is, you know, is there as well.
Okay, and one last question. We've got about a minute to answer this one. My nails break and split quite easily. Could I be lacking something in my diet? Could that be the iron again then?
Yeah, definitely iron. The thing with nails is actually they are a bit of a window into something being wrong inside your body. So if it's quite a new thing, I would suggest checking it out at the GP. Things like breaking quite quickly can be, again, a sign of lack of iron or thyroid issues. Kind of brittle, no, actually not brittle, but peeling nails can be a sign of psoriasis, and you can get psoriasis just on your fingernails and not on your body, so you wouldn't know. But again, hair and nails are made from the same substance, keratin. So it's, again, making sure there's enough protein. All the omega-3s, so the oils from the oily fish, are very, very good at supporting nail and hair growth, as well as B vitamins, which you're getting from your fruits, your vegetables, and whole grains.
Lovely. Laura, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And we'll see you again very soon.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
And everyone, if you'd like more information about Laura, please do visit our website, chrissybshow.tv. Scroll down and you can find all her details there. And also, if you'd like to ask a question as well, you can email nutrition@chrissybshow.tv. Well, now it's time to go to my final thought of the day. Thank you once again to all my guests on today's program, and especially to Sharon. So, you know, she's been our resident guest here for, I think, over 5 years now, and I didn't know about her past, what had happened to her son, and it was really great that she actually came on and spoke about her loss, but also how she managed to turn things around. So obviously it was a very difficult time back then, but look at what she's achieved today and how happy she is today. So it is always possible. So what I'd like to touch on today is actually about loss, because I see there's like maybe two types of losses. The first type is an apparent loss. It looks like you've lost something. It looks like you're missing out on something. For example, you lose a job, but you can always kind of reframe your thinking and actually say, well, actually that job maybe wasn't good for me. Maybe that job was what pushed me to start my own business, for example. So it seemed like a loss at the time. It seemed like, you know, everything was going wrong, but actually it prompted you, that thing can prompt you to make some other positive changes in your life that will actually make your life even better. And then, of course, we have the loss where you have actually lost something, like in our guest's case, she lost a child. You know, that her son was born and then, you know, in a very short space of time, he died. And that is a loss. But what can you do in those kind of cases? We will all go through a loss at some point in our lives, some more difficult than others. But again, as we saw and as we see from the guests that come on this program, even if you have lost someone, lost something that was so important to you, you can actually get help. You can move through these, you know, bad, difficult times to actually come out on top again. The issue is sometimes that people kind of, when they have a loss like that, they lose themselves as well. And when you lose yourself, that's the worst thing that can happen, because it's very difficult to bring yourself back up. But that's why it's so important that you do get the right support, get the right help, and that loss actually can be even be your strength later on as well. It can help you to inspire others. It can help you to help others in the future. Sometimes the worst things that we go through are the things that really prompt change, or they help us to really make a difference in other people's lives, because we know how it feels, we know what we went through, we know all the emotions that came, we know what we did to actually get through those times, and we can always pass that on to other people. So any loss, of course, is difficult, but any loss as well can also be overcome. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us by emailing info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about me and my mental health journey, please visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye-bye for now.